So, Family Book Club, we started a tradition a few years ago that once a quarter we read a book together. So every fall, every winter, every spring. We usually take summers off. But if we can read 3 good books, something that Jamie and I have come across to help us with our personal development, relationship skills, financial intelligence, the things not taught in school that we think these guys are going to need to know, and we can discuss it, then we seem to get a lot more out of it. So we do it as a family. So we're not in any other book clubs, not that those aren't right, but we like to just make sure we're doing these ones with our family. So in this one,
we keep a rhythm of doing it once a week. We usually meet on Tuesday evenings. We put the younger siblings into childcare at our beach club, and then the rest of us have dinner. We get to goof off the first little bit of time, and then for the first hour, and then the next hour we just go into this book, into any book.
So we'll just do a quick recap tonight. So, Leland, you're on the stage, dude. Tell me, what is the empowerment dynamic about? There's 2 different triangles we get caught in, right? So can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, okay. So there's the first one is the negative, which is called the DDT, or the dreaded drama triangle, which is a sort of a negative, never-ending loop. So what happens in it is there's the persecutor, which aggravates or irritates and tries to hurt or harm or just irritate the victim. And so it could be anything, annoying coworker, or even just sand that you trip over. It could be anything. And then there's the rescuer, which could be, the rescuer is not always good things. It could be, a friend that helps you through something, or it could be drugs and alcohol, which are only temporary and turn into the persecutor.
They're like an escape.
Mm-hmm. And so that's the...
What about victim?
Oh, and the victim is the person that the persecutor is affecting. So the one that's like, oh no, my life's terrible, everybody's going after me, everyone's a persecutor, and they're the one that is saved by the rescuer.
So do they take responsibility, or they don't take responsibility?
No, they don't.
So what's the opposite of a victim?
Well, hold on. First, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Talking in the dreaded drama triangle. So, is it possible to be more? If you're a persecutor, are you always a persecutor?
No.
No. So, is it possible to be all 3, or is it possible to just be one, or can you be what? Tell me about that.
Well, theoretically, yes, you could be all 3. So I can find an example for one that could be 2 as of. So alcohol could be a rescuer, which helps you escape and from the reality and of something, and then it could later turn into the persecutor. It could be the problem. Mm-hmm. So first off, it's the rescuer, but then it turns into the problem because you have like addiction or
Something like that.
health problems.
Good.
Yeah. And even in relationships, you can rescue somebody, but then they start to then see you as a persecutor, or your relationship changes and it takes on a different effect if you stay in that DDT, right?
Like a parent.
Yeah.
If we rescued you from every bad situation or this or that, then all of a sudden you're like, stop smothering me, right?
You could,
Something like
right?
that.
Mm-hmm.
So
And then Alden, what's the opposite of the dreaded drama triangle? What's it called?
The empowerment dynamic.
And what's that about?
So the empowerment dynamic is the opposite of the dreaded drama triangle. So the victim of the dreaded drama triangle would then be the creator, and the empowerment dynamic, which instead of looking at everything as negative and hurting the victim, I guess, it finds ways to create and build, I guess. And then the second part, which would be
The challenger
would be the persecutor in the dreaded drama triangle, and the challenger helps the victim, or doesn't help them, but it challenges them to get better, or challenges the creator to get better. And
like a coach does for a soccer team or a soccer player, or like your youth instructor does for you.
Right.
And that's the third one, right?
Yeah, and then the third part's the coach,
Oh.
which coaches the challenger. No.
No, the coach instead of rescuing coaches, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
So remember the one we talked about, instead of, I can't do your push-ups for you,
Right.
but I can show you how to do a push-up and encourage you, right? Because you're not going to get stronger if I do the push-ups. You have to do them,
Right.
so I can't do them for you. So I don't rescue, I just coach. Or you coach me
Yeah.
on something like fishing. I'll say, Dad, you can't do the line like that. But if I don't actually start doing it or pulling it, then I'm not going to catch the fish, right?
And an example in the book, it said that the rescuer usually is looking for something in return. However, the challenger is solely, the coach,
Yeah.
is solely there to just help you.
Good point. So they're not as like involved.
Self-seeking,
They're more
yeah.
neutral, right? Good. That's a great point. So do you guys remember what did they talk about with if you focus on a problem, what grows?
The problem.
The problem.
Well, there's a feeling. Remember the feeling?
Oh, anxiety.
Good memory.
Well, in the book, it gave the example. He was looking out on the waves, and so he was focusing on a certain thing, and it made him feel or internalize peaceful, and then his behavior changed. He was more calm.
When he looked out at the ocean, he focused on the beauty of
Yeah.
it. His inner state felt better, and then he started to behave different and talk
Yeah.
at a better conversation.
So if you focus on positive things, your attitude is more likely to be positive, and if you focus on negative things, it's more negative.
Great.
And
And it also talked about anxiety, whereas like if you're thinking about something that makes you anxious, you then become anxious,
yeah.
right? So it talked a lot about that inner state becoming anxiety, and that when you, your anxiety goes up, your intelligence goes down. It was something like that. Like it's actually stopped you from being able to think.
There were 3 F things that happen if you're stuck in that victim cycle, remember? You fight,
Flee or freeze.
yeah,
Yeah.
right? And how many times did we talk about that? So fighting in like a bad situation, fleeing or freezing. I know Alden and I have done examples about being out in the surf. Remember when we were talking about, okay, where's our mindset? What do we focus on a bigger day? If we freeze out there, then you're just going to get clobbered, right? So there's a whole different way of breaking that victim cycle. But those are the 3 things. If you're in the victim cycle, you get caught in, right? So and usually you stand. If you just lash out and fight, that's not always the best reaction either, right? You're defending, but it's not going to get the best results because it keeps perpetuating, right?
Talking about how most of the time, or most people, just walk through life, or I guess just walk through life without like actually realizing what's happening. Then a BFO, right?
Blinding flash of
It was a
obvious.
blinding flash of obvious, which like I don't know, just that makes you realize something.
Can you think of any examples from the book or from life? Can you think of any example from the book? The BFF?
That's a BFO. Where
Blinding flash of obvious.
where an idea just pops into
Where an
your
idea
head
pops into your
out
head.
of nowhere,
Okay.
and it's just like, wow, that was so obvious. Why didn't I think of that earlier?
All right, so I got one. So
Yeah,
they
I mean,
said-
like an example.
So blinding flash
Yeah, well,
of
that's
obvious means
just
too. There's
happened.
things that we should see and like we don't. But then once we do, we're like, how didn't I see that before? Probably like a lot of the family stuff we talk about. But they talked about to get out of victimhood, which is the biggest issue of the triangle, right? The creator, they said to start focusing on outcomes instead of the problem itself, right? So let's say, Alden, you want to buy a new fishing boat. Do you focus on, I don't have a boat, I don't have the money to do it, Mom and Dad won't buy it, or did you focus on saying, all right, well, I'm going to side hustle this and do this and work a thing on Craigslist and that? Remember, you didn't focus on, I don't have a boat, you said, how do I get a boat?
Get a boat.
Right? Blinding flash of obvious, but you went from a victim, like, wish I could fish more, I wish I could do it, and then all of a sudden you're like, nah, I'm going to work this guy down on Craigslist,
Yeah.
I'm going to save from my 2 side hustle business things, and then you work the deal, right?
Right.
So that was going from the problem to the outcome. You were like,
Yeah.
I'm getting this boat. That was one of the biggest lessons I got out of this. Because I have a tendency sometimes, especially in business, to get wrapped up in the problem. And I have to ask myself, hey, step out of it and look higher to the solution, to the
Right.
outcome that you're looking for, not dwelling in the problem, right?
Yeah. And on the same vein, talking about not dwelling, what that just brought up for me is, do you guys remember that David, the main character's mentor the red-haired woman, right?
Oh, yeah.
When they first met, what did he do? What did he start to explain to her?
His problem.
His problems and what had
Hurt him.
and already happened, right?
Yeah.
So he started to like unpack all of his baggage, talking about, oh, but I should be upset, I should be mad because this, and that. Like he had all of these reasons why he's the victim and why it should be totally okay. But instead, what did she do, Alden? Do you remember?
She stopped him
Yep. And why did she stop him?
because you can't like change the past. You can like only focus on the outcome or what you want to do, I guess.
Yeah. And she said, I'm not interested in how you got here
Right.
or why you're here or what's happening
I'm interested in what you become and what you choose to do with it.
and where you're going, right? Yeah. So that's a good thing to think about too. Yes, we all have reasons to be like, oh, this sucks, or, oh, this happened to me. But it doesn't define you, and you can continue to move forward.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. No,
Oh.
I was going to piggyback on
Yeah,
that with challengers. So I'm ADD, so I had to figure out ways to think differently and do things differently, and stuff that I got in trouble for in school, that I was really put down, actually ended up serving me on the other side, right? They were challengers. They weren't, if I looked at them as challenges that were there to challenge me and help me grow and morph up, right?
Right.
You guys were dyslexic. Now you guys read 2 books a week. So we kind of look at a challenge as the challenger, but not as something that takes us down, but actually elevates us up, right? And that kind of ties in with, remember the thing about the suspension bridge, the dynamic tension? Remember that, a suspension bridge? What makes a bridge that we go over, like the one we took the 4-wheelers over in Costa Rica? Remember the suspension bridge? So it's
Yeah.
all the metal lines and stuff, so when we go across, it stretches and it actually makes it stronger.
The tension.
You know, when you look on a bridge, Alden, the tension of a bridge is what gives it strength. It's called, so what they compared that to is a suspension bridge, a dynamic tension. So sometimes tension, when you're not in the role of the victim or the persecutor, but more in the challenger and coach, like Mom and I, you've seen us have real tension where we're trying to figure out the best education for you guys, how we're going to raise the family, right? Sometimes tension can be like trying to come up with the better solution. Remember we talked about even talks that we
Or like
have.
when we're coaching through talks, when we're coaching through something and we're like, okay, I don't like that, but try this. Or, there's a little bit of
there's
tension.
and there's creative tension. Like we've had conversations where it's tense and then all of a sudden we come out of it at a higher level, right? Because we figure things out like, oh, I didn't know that's what you meant. Oh, that's what you guys were talking about. Like we did
Yeah.
this weekend when we were talking about use of electronics.
Oh,
and
yeah, that's a great
freedom.
one. Because there
Remember,
was
it kind of
definitely some
creative
tension there when we were talking about what to do with electronics. And you were concerned and you were hesitant and kind of stiff. And then maybe you felt like we were hesitant and stiff on the subject. But instead, we creatively pulled our own side and then decided, here's how we're going to do it to make it stronger. So,
When Mom's helped me design a talk, sometimes she can be creative, use creative tension and go, you're really going off to grandma's house. You have to get that out. I don't take that as mean. I'm like, wow, she's helped me carve the block. So that's again, that creative tension can actually be a good thing. But you got to be in the right frame of mind to accept that and to be working together of, comparing ideas and views, right?
because if you're just a victim, then you're going to be like, oh, quit persecuting me. So you guys could have easily, and you may have for a moment, felt like we were persecuting you when we were trying to come up with a plan for like electronic usage and some boundaries. You could have been like, why are you trying to control my life? But instead, you came to the table and you were like, no, I have concerns, right? And you were able to express your concerns, and that way you weren't a victim and we weren't a persecutor. Now, can someone be just, people don't just become the challenger versus the persecutor, right? Like do you choose that, or is it a mindset? Like what happens there?
I think it's more of like just a mindset. Just realizing that you're either the persecutor or whoever in the dreaded drama triangle, and then seeing how you can change to become one of the other 3 in the empowerment dynamic.
Have you ever recognized a time in which you consciously changed from being one of the negative roles to one of the positive ones?
Yeah, I mean, like what Dad said with the boat, I was focusing on like how I didn't have money, how just like how I wasn't able to do it instead of like figuring out a way to do it. I guess.
Yeah.
And what was the key? And this is something, I don't know if you guys remember this. Again, I just looked it up again, but I was like, what was that main point we kept talking about? And we all started challenging each other, whether it was getting back into surfing, going to the next level in fishing, becoming actually a professional fisherman, doing more talks, doing more writing, whatever it is that we're challenging. What was the key?
Baby steps.
Dang, good. See,
Oh,
didn't remember
good.
that. Baby
I wouldn't
steps.
have either until
Yeah,
you
I
just
didn't
said
say
it.
I was
that
going to
in
give
the
you guys a
book.
hint with Sammy. Like,
I
what did
looked
Sammy
at it.
start doing? But
I
yeah,
probably
baby
got
steps.
confused. Okay.
So, going out with the professional fisherman for the first time, you were a little out of it and goofy, and I mean, way better than I would do.
I don't know if he was goofy.
But well, just you're
Maybe
not, you're
awkward,
kind of out
you
of-
know,
you're
you
out of
don't
your
know.
element, but you're stretching forward and you're taking baby steps, and now your third time down there, those baby steps have accelerated, right? And they're
They've
like, wow,
taken you
know how
from
to
being
do this.
interested to being committed, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. Baby steps. Can you be your own coach
I mean, yeah, you can teach yourself.
or your own challenger?
You can.
I mean, I guess.
But you have Tucker. So your
you-
fishing mentor, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot easier with him being your coach and challenger,
Okay.
but your job is to do the baby steps. He can't do that for you, right? Just even making the phone call to say, hey, I want to come on the boat in the Keys with you,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So that was a big one. You getting back in the surf, you're like, yeah, I want to get back in the surf, but, right? And so you had to take baby steps. We're like, all right, well, let's paddle out on this day. Let's paddle out on this day. Same thing. Right?
But you had to accept the challenge, right? You had to challenge yourself. You kind of coached
Well,
him, and then he challenged
And he
himself.
decided. That's
Yeah.
the key, right? I didn't decide you wanted to be a fisherman. That was all your
Because
decision.
that would then make you a persecutor. If you decided for him, hey, you're going to do this, I think that
Yeah,
makes
then
you a
he'd
persecutor.
get mad at him. He's like, no.
Yeah, don't persecute.
Or if I
don't
was
tell me what
saying,
to do.
when you stopped surfing for a while, did I ever tell you you had to get back in the water?
I mean, yeah, a few
I
times.
think Alden joked with you to come in, but I never said. I was always like, no.
I think maybe
no.
Dad was like, if you're not gonna do whatever, then you have to get in the water with us, even if it's on a boogie board. Or I think there were some things that
You
Dad
weren't
might
allowed
have
to
pushed
stay
you a little
home and-
bit.
Well, Dad was like, he's just going through a phase to kind of, not be like us and kind of like rebel and not go with the flow or something like that.
But that's
he said.
okay.
I said, was that,
You're
was
like,
there
I do
any
what I
truth to
want.
that? You wanted to do whatever you wanted and make a point?
Well, I kind of just didn't feel like doing it anymore. It wasn't that fun for a while.
Yeah, okay.
Well, that's
But
okay.
good. But why did you get back into the surf?
I don't know, because I wanted to see if it was still fun.
Not because anybody made you or told you to, right? Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So you took the baby steps on something. None of you guys said you have to start speaking on stage, even though it wanted to make me want to puke. I had to make that decision myself, right? It's good you guys encourage me if you're at a talk, like, hey, that was good. And I'll say, all right, let me take a baby step. Maybe I can go to a bigger crowd. Maybe I can do that. Now Mom's on stage speaking, like we're about our crazy family stuff. That was a big step, right? So, all right, baby steps was the big one that I wanted to do on. So, any closing thoughts on this? I mean, one thing I wanted to ask, how easy is it to read story form now when they put it into parables?
Oh, yeah.
I think this is probably our easiest, just into story form. So it's not like a textbook.
Yeah. It gives you
Everything's
formulas,
from the
but
story.
it's
Yeah.
not like,
How? Okay.
Do you
What's
like
that?
that
No,
better
go
or
ahead.
worse? Would you rather do a textbook where they just wrote out the definitions
of the DDT.
No, I'd rather have like pictures and stories.
and the stories, right?
Yeah.
Did it help you digest the content because you could oftentimes when I read a story I see parts of myself reflected. I think that's the whole thing about books, right? You can see like, oh man, I know when I was like that. Like, is it easy for you to identify with characters or to identify with the principles that yeah.
Well, I mean, they're both good, but a textbook is like a summary of it, and it only gives you like the important stuff. However, the story is more fun to read, but however, it takes longer to get accomplished.
Like, do you think that you would remember DDT and all the pieces and what it changes to
Well,
as
yeah,
easily if it
I
was
would
just
rather
like
read this than like
yeah? Because you got my point being is you saw the characters applying it,
Yeah.
and then you were like, "Ooh, where can I apply this so that we can even have this conversation?" Because
yeah.
you don't think so? Yeah.
Yeah.
How many times, Alden, how many times have we said, Leland's acting like a victim. Hey, Leland, don't be a victim. Have we used that? Have we used the vocabulary from this book in our family?
Dad, don't be a persecutor.
Yeah.
but we know
Dad,
it.
quit persecuting me.
But
yeah.
we even know from the stories, though. I remember things through stories. I don't remember textbooks. You are really good at school. I think you and Mom are both like that, and me and Alden are a little more experiential and story form and picture oriented, wouldn't you say, Alden? But we all have our skills, but I don't remember things in textbook. So we'll wrap up those. So, but the one thing, like we promised you guys, the reason we do this little book club and Tank joins in, is so I promised I'll always tell you bad jokes, but I won't waste your time, right? I'll always be honest with you. Can you see how this might apply and help you guys now and 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Good. That's why we read these books. That's why I chose. And I've learned this one in a leadership class I took with a lot of successful business guys, and they're like, oh, I don't know if kids would get it. Did you guys have any problem following this book?
No.
Just to show to your credit that you guys are a lot smarter than sometimes you're given credit for. So we want to give you credit on that. But our whole goal is to make sure you guys get this, we keep these lessons in us, and then we can conversate, right? Like Mom said, all joking aside, how many times have said, well, be a creator. Let's figure out the outcome that we want. Or stop being a victim. Or stop, don't rescue me, I can do this on my own, right? We even have Sammy, I'll do it on my own, right? When you guys try to pick them up and put them up on something, I do it. So anyway, that's the reason we read it together is so we can have a conversation about it long term. So appreciate you guys playing in. Anything you guys want to end with? Just point like an overall aha of the book, something that...
Like you were saying, it kind of gives us that vocabulary, as I mentioned earlier, like we could then challenge Leland, like, why are you acting like a victim? Like we have like a common vocabulary to use with one another. That common vocabulary I think is important. Same way that when we read some of our other books and the principles that are in there, it gives us this common vocabulary to either like could further communicate with each other. Right?
I fully agree with your statement. So I think that the whole moral and the story of the book was that it was all about perspective.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So perspective is everything. How you look at something and how you react and how you see things.
And the book talked about, instead of reacting, responding.
Responding, yeah.
What
Which
should
is
you
different.
respond
Because
as?
reacting is like...
Oh, go ahead.
Can you calm down? Okay, so...
At least it's real.
reacting is just what your like emotions towards the problem. So if someone were to like, I don't know, pass out right there and like fall down, I'd probably like laugh or something. That's reacting, like ha ha ha. But responding is like what you do to take action towards it.
Like to
So if
help
they
them
fell,
up.
So I could laugh and then I could walk over. I would react and then I would respond.
But I think the book is encouraging you to not react.
To respond. So
To
it may
respond.
just stand up and get them.
Yeah, not like, oh, this is the funniest thing ever. But to react, to respond, not react. Okay, great. Thank you for your closing
End on
thoughts.
that.
All right, I think the 34th retake was the good one. Nice out, everybody.